Absolutely. SI.com, Monday Morning Quarterback, and, of course, Amazon Prime. Albert Breer with us every Tuesday. You're at Chargers camp, and so I think we all knew when Jim Harbaugh left Michigan to go back to the NFL that things would work out well. I wonder how they can build on last year's team.
Yeah, I think it's just leaning more into what they already have become, and I think one of the most impressive things about Jim is how what he builds looks the same everywhere, for the most part. I think it was identifiable at Stanford, looked the same in San Francisco, at Michigan, and now at the Chargers. And so, I think, it's funny, it sounds simple, but it's more of the same. It's becoming more of what they already are, and that's a tough physical team that's going to win on the ground and, have tough guys all over their defense. And, you look at some of the acquisitions, this offseason, they drafted Marion Hampton, who was probably the most physical guy in the running back class in the first round. They bring in Mekhi Becton, who's just like a mountain of an offensive guard. They've just gotten tougher and edgier. And, I think it's just continuing to lean in to what Jim Harbaugh really believes in and what Jim Harbaugh's built everywhere he's been.
Albert, in terms of guys that we just did a segment here, Tyreek Hill, I heard Chris Canty say this morning, wouldn't be shocked if he's moved before opening day. Terry McLaurin, Trey Hendrickson, Micah Parsons. Do you think any of these big stars are not on their teams when the season starts?
I just have my radar up on Tyreek a little bit. And the reason why is because that's a very real retooling they're going through in Miami. And, I think it's smart in a way because I think it's like the realization that, you had, you had a pretty talented core of players, and you really made a run at it while Tua was still on his rookie contract. He's not on his rookie contract anymore. And so you can delay it if you want, but at some point, you're going to have to start to retool the roster and rework the team. And so I'm not saying they're going to go shop Tyreek Hill, but if somebody comes along with a first-round pick, I don't know. If I were them, I would have a hard time walking away from it. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but, I think it's sort of at the point now where he's into his 30s. He had his worst year as a pro last year. Now, part of that, of course, is injury affected. So, if you're the Dolphins and somebody offers something substantial for Hill, I think you really have to think about it. With the other guys, I think we're going to look back at those in two or 3 months, and we're going to look at those as negotiating tactics. I mean, we'll see. You never know, and it can. We have, of course, seen those things devolve in the past, where it looks like it's a negotiating tactic in July, and a trade happens in September. But I just don't see any of those situations going that way.
Is it just me, Albert, or is it just that when you go to Rams camp like you just did and you hear from Sean McVay and then you see, Devontae Adams being part of this offense, every year I'm seemingly optimistic, maybe because of the youthful enthusiasm of the coach. This offense and defense, I always think the Rams are a must-watch. It just seems like a team that will always contend. Is that fair?
And they've done a really nice job with rebuilding the roster on the fly for sure, and kind of detaching from that, that Jalen Ramsey, Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp core. It's hard to believe all those guys are gone now, but they are, and they've replaced it with guys like Puka Nacua and Kyron Williams and Jared Verse and Braden Fisk and Byron Young. And, you look across that roster and, the quarterback's 37, but, they are young almost everywhere else. And, I see them as being in a very real championship window now. And, I may wind up, and I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet, but I may wind up picking them to win the Super Bowl. And I think they're a team that could be aggressive near the trade deadline too, because they've cleaned out their salary cap. So it's an organization that's in a very, very healthy spot right now, which is interesting because if you had asked me 2 or 3 years ago, I probably would have told you Sean McVay would be gone by now. And he's not, and I think working with all of these young guys, the success of the rebuild has reinvigorated him. And I think he's there for the foreseeable future now.
In terms of Matthew Stafford, I know he's dealt with a back thing, but he's going to be fine by opening day, right?
Yeah, so right now, I mean, look, like I don't want to downplay anything, and this guy has really been through the wars, right? Like one of the toughest guys in football, and the elbow issue, the back issue, he's had a ton of injuries. So I don't want to downplay any of that at all. So just don't take this the wrong way. But I do think, to some degree for the Rams, this is more of a, we got him up to 85, 90% now. Let's just not put him out there till he's 100%. It's just not worth it for them, And I think they know there's only so many bullets in the gun with a guy at that age, and why waste them in training camp, So they have a guy they really like in Jimmy Garoppolo. In fact, I would tell you right now, if Matthew Stafford had wound up being traded, if that had happened in the offseason and that was a real thing, I would tell you Jimmy Garoppolo would have been their second option behind Aaron Rodgers. That's how much they think of him. They think he's a starting quarterback. So, they're fine with Jimmy in there in a practice context, and they can get the work they need to get done and save the bullet in Matthew's gun right now. So I don't think for right now there's a whole lot of concern other than the natural. He's 37 and he's got a lot of nagging stuff going on.
True Fan Travel and ESPN Chicago are teaming up for the ultimate fan getaway to Sin City to see the Bears take on the Raiders in Las Vegas.
You get round-trip airfare, 3-night stay at Mandalay Bay, special live broadcasts and meet and greets with the full ESPN Chicago team, all-inclusive tailgate, tickets to Bears, Raiders, and more to come.
Spots are limited, so don't wait. Reserve your spot today at truefantravel.com. Back to you on the video. You wrote recently about the Cleveland Browns and their clown car of quarterbacks that they have. This is something else, Albert. This is we just talked about it around the NFL. We feel like Flacco should be the starter, followed by Kenny Pickett, and then you kind of roll the dice. How do you think that's all going to occur? I saw that Snoop Hundley's part of the mix now as well.
Yeah, so I mean, I think they're another one. It's sort of like what I just talked about with Miami, where I don't think anybody there's going to call it a rebuild, but to me, trading out of the second overall pick was sort of a sign for where they are, and that they had exhausted what they had tried to do with the core that they had, and they had gotten older in some key spots, and they still have some older veterans Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward and Joel Bitonio on the team. And so, for them, looking at where they're at and where the roster is, I think they made a conscious decision in the offseason, we need to get younger. And that's why they walk away from drafting Travis Hunter. We're not one player away. We have a lot of work to do here. We have to get younger in a lot of key spots. And so, I think that's why they didn't sell out at quarterback and why they made the decision consciously to duct tape it together at quarterback, because there wasn't an answer after Cam Ward in this year's draft, in their opinion. And they were better served trying to get younger across their roster. So, I think as far as the quarterback situation goes for this year, you have to keep the players engaged because they are in this weird spot. You got to give them who the best answer is. And I think the best answer is going to be one of those two veterans. And I would be surprised if either of the two rookies wind up being the future of the team, but that's just me.
In terms of Minnesota, I know we love the roster, and when we had you up at camp, you said that roster is absolutely loaded. I keep hearing from people up there that I went to school up there. I have some friends that cover the team, and they said, JJ's up and down, man. We're a little concerned about him. Are you hearing the same thing?
Yeah, and, I think that there's the loss of time on task. There was a lot of time on task, that he could have gotten last year working with the scout team and, the little things he could have refined just as a passer, because he does have some work to do as a passer. That's all time lost. Now, the good news is he has been fully engaged since January and February, and he's worked his ass off, and he's trying to make up for all that time lost. And what the Vikings coaches are trying to do is they're trying to accelerate the process with him. So let's see how much we can help him see. And that way, not being able to keep Sam Darnold or Daniel Jones is actually a blessing in disguise, because they are able to just absolutely flood him with reps. He's taken every first-team rep through the spring and the summer. But it's going to look like this sometimes. As you guys well know, like you have it with Caleb Williams, there are going to be some ups and downs. And, I think the main thing for them, and the one thing they're definitely messaging to them is, we've got a really great team here. You don't need to be Superman. Just, do what we're just run the offense. We're going to give you a good run game. We're going to give you play passes off the run game. We're going to give you quick game. We're going to give you the screen game. You don't need to be Superman here. I think that's probably the right approach. And I think it's fair, based on the track record, to trust Kevin O'Connell knows what he's doing.
You also were with the Denver Broncos. Remember, Cap, we were talking about Sean Payton, and we said, this whole thing with Russ, it's just not going to work. You just knew it was just oil and water. But to give Sean Payton a young quarterback to mold and shape, and then you read what Albert writes about Bo Nix, you know what? There's a lot of upside with Bo Nix just because of being around Sean Payton, because he's been around young quarterbacks before.
Yeah, and it's interesting talking to him about how people look at Bo Nix and act as if he's tapped out. Sean almost took offense to that. You know what I mean? No, he's not tapped out. We have a really good quarterback here, and there's still a lot of growth potential. And he really thinks he saw something in Bo Nix that no one else or very few other people saw. Because, quite frankly, I think Sean thinks, a lot of teams are looking for the wrong things at quarterback. So, I think he's a really good fit for the place, but I think he's a good player in his own right. And that team's got a chance to be really good, guys. I mean, you think about this, they had the number one defense in the league last year, and then they're adding Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga from the Niners. And you got Bo Nix with another year in Sean Payton's offense, and they're bringing virtually everybody back on that side of the ball. You add, R.J. Harvey to the backfield from UCF. I think the Broncos are a very real contender this year. I think they'll be back in the playoffs, and it wouldn't surprise me if they advance a round or two when they get there.
Albert, have a great trip out west, and we look forward to talking to you, man. It's here. Football's back.